Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, not pretty happy with the lighting so far here. We'll tweak that. Got a couple more minutes till top of the hour, and we'll get started after what has been an exciting couple of weeks. I will tell you what. Oop, let me not that. Let's do this, and let me copy this. Okay. Copy the link to Twitter. And okay, is now what? Do. Okay. Got a couple more minutes till top of the hour. I'm going to give a few more people a chance to jump in. We're going to make a copy of the link to the Twitter, and we'll catch up here on the action from a couple of very busy weeks in the sport. Just flew in this afternoon. We'll have plenty to talk about from the weekend. I'm just now sharing the link on Twitter, and we'll get started. Boop. There it is. Okay, that should do it. Checking on Twitter here, looking at the comment from Comics by Bruno. Had that great comic online there showing all the different retro throwback paint schemes on throwback cars. I was asking a question about soundtracks used in NASCAR shows during the early 90s. Yeah, boy, you and me both, man. There's been some that have been posted on there. I think there's one called like Go for the Gold that was used by TNN for a while. Or gosh, I have the track somewhere. It's on one of my links, but it's one of those ones you don't know the title of the instrumental there, and you pull it up and you recognize it right away. No worries, Beast of Metal. We'll have this all on online again, and so you can check back in whenever you come back in there. But I appreciate you jumping in here for a little bit, and we're at top of the hour. So okay, let me pull this here and get that there, and we'll go ahead and get started. So, alrighty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've had an excellent couple of weeks. I know we've been away for a bit. I think the last time that we were online, we were talking about Matt DiBenedetto and getting the near miss at Bristol there a couple weeks ago. A lot has changed since then, and a lot of action in the last 2 weeks. Again, the reason we've been away for the last couple of weeks, for those of you who don't know, is we were away actually doing trackside reporting from both Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for the Truck Series off weekend, as well as the Darlington Throwback weekend that just wrapped up very early on Monday morning. And we just traveled back here to the Bay Area here at LASCAR headquarters. And I just wanted to do a little bit of a show to kind of talk about everything that happened there. So let's see. Let's go ahead and start right at the beginning. First of all, I did make sure to get my Grand National scene from Rick Houston himself. I guess this isn't necessarily starting at the beginning, but Darlington Raceway, I swear this is true. First person I ran into when I walked into the media center on Friday for practice was Steve Wade, and really cool guy. That was really nice to meet him over there after him helping him promote the JD book last year. It seemed like they were extending an offer to come on their show there. I was hoping to pick them up on that, but unfortunately it was kind of getting pulled in different directions. I couldn't wait on that afternoon to go take a look at the paint schemes and everything, as I'm sure you guys were anxious to see as well. But they're really cool. I got one from Steve, and I got 2 issues from Rick Houston. Spoke with him as well there. One of them is going to our good friend Rob Taylor, who up in Canada, who was so cool to host us there during the Canada weekend. First and foremost, a big shout out to him. That's been in the process for quite a while. We were talking about doing that just last year after the 2018 running at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and really cool to be there. And and Andrew, you mentioned a couple of your friends there up at Canadian Tire. I know Steve McLean is somebody that's been following me on YouTube here for quite a while. Steve, if you're out there, again, that was really awesome meeting you and your friend out there from Court, and it was really cool out there. I mean, it was really humbling because I ran into so many people that were just fans of the website or fans of LASCAR and been readers for years. And Canada is one of the venues that certainly we hadn't done before. And Darlington is one we hadn't done in a while. So it was a great way to come back there. And so many people, I mean, too many people to name there on that. But goodness, gosh, I mean, it was really, I mean, it's still kind of sinking in that we went there. It was just a real quick deal there. Well, let me, I guess I was making this very different from the past shows, of course, waiting for disqualification results. As it turned out, Darlington, of course, had one of those, and that became an interesting little plot twist there to see the first disqualification live. We'll get into that a little bit, but let's start. Let's cue it back over to Mosport to start things off. We flew out the Thursday before the Mosport weekend, and again, big thanks to Rob Taylor out there for hosting us that night. That weekend, really. Staying up there, it gave us an opportunity to check out things north of the border. Everybody up there really cool, good people up there and all that. And Friday we kind of used more of that to kind of get acclimated to the area. It was so interesting seeing the way how different things are up there. For one thing, they still have Toys R Us up there. I couldn't help but look by there just to make sure it was still open. But that was pretty neat. And the dollar goes a bit further up there in Canada too. So definitely for those of you looking to travel on a budget, definitely something to recommend. I had to get a surge protector for my computer because I forgot to bring mine with me. And I bought one that had, I think, 8 plugs in it. And I found that for less than like $10, $10 Canadian. So that was a good deal. So I had that over for the track, but no diecast at Toys R Us. I didn't see any. I was definitely wanted to see if they had any NASCAR stuff there. I don't know if it was just out of stock, but there's definitely Hot Wheels and stuff like that. It was weird because it looked almost exactly like the one by Pittsburgh that's closest one to us here that closed with everything else there. So it was very much the same kind of deal there. Also, for those of you who are big Lego fans, I saw that there's that new series like Hidden Side. It's got like some kind of weird kind of Halloween monster vibe or something. I never even saw that over here in the States until we got back, but we saw those up there. That was pretty hip. So any kind of deal there, but really, I mean, great people up there in Canada. It's very, very clean, very quiet, very spread out. And I think with Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in particular, that was exceptionally true because you get up there and it's kind of a cross between Watkins Glen and Sears Point in many ways. It's a very long track. It's a kind of track that you want to be in several places at once. It's very difficult to actually take in the entire track. I think for me personally, during the entire weekend, I only saw the front straightaway between the last 2 corners of the chicane into turn number 1 and a little bit into turn 2. But that was about it for me on that. Because the big difference there is I was doing, of course, a lot of the last place stuff in the garage area and covering what was going on in the garage. We went back there and scoped out some good spots. But very helpful track staff there to kind of get you acclimated. What's great about it is they do have like a lot of shuttles and golf carts and stuff that take you from one place of the track or the other. I didn't really take advantage of that as much because again, what the biggest thing I always look for is again quick access to the garage, getting as much access to the drivers at each session there along the way. And I was plenty entertained there. I mean, there's an abundance of great viewing areas. The other one, I would say probably the second best to those last 2 corners would be the Moss hairpin. We went there after the race was over with and took a look out in that section there. And it's really what I'm not sure if it comes across very well on TV, but huge elevation changes. There the hills. The way I saw it on TV, it looked like it looked almost kind of reminded me of that old. I think the kind of running like Portland. I know where the IndyCar series was running back when the Truck Series used to run it. More or less flat. Nothing could be further than the truth. Very very steep hills. Very very spread out. There's a reason that last chicane is as tricky as it is because that Andretti straightaway that you exit out the Moss hairpin through is extremely fast, extremely long, and the woods around the track are extremely thick. We went through a lot of wooded areas in the during a lot of this trip, and I don't think I saw woods any thicker than the stuff around the track there. The in fact, the billboards that are in the Moss hairpin are actually held up by very large, like tree trunk size poles. They're almost like old light poles up there. So that was a pretty crazy deal up there. But again, it takes a bit of time to kind of travel from one part of the track or the other. And the Truck Series garage is very much segregated from the NASCAR Pinty Series garage. Unfortunately, since the Truck Series garage only has one entrance and exit, which is just around the area of the pedestrian bridge on the front straightaway. The only other way to get the Pinty's garage from the truck garage is to go out that main entrance again and then down this other walkway. And there's a gully down there right at the bottom of this steep hill where those last two turns are. And that's where the Pinty's haulers were lined up. So it was very much a challenge on that. That's the reason that when you see the video that I had to the finish of the Pinty's garage, I'm looking at the turns from the opposite direction. Turned out to be in the wrong place for that one because that last corner proved critical with Kevin Lacroix and Alex Tagliani coming together there in the last quarter and having a bit of fireworks up there. But yes, this is our first, not necessarily our first trip to Canada. We've been to Vancouver in the past, Vancouver and Victoria on the West Coast. And we visited Rob briefly during our Watkins Glen trip when we were visiting Niagara Falls, but we hadn't ventured any further than that. So this was definitely much more of an exploration around there. We went as far up as Toronto, because Toronto very much feels like, again, our Lego reference. It feels a lot like the city scenes in the opening of the Lego movie. Very busy, very bustling. Rob has a very good connection with the folks at the Steam Whistle Brewery up there, which is built into an old Canadian railroad roundhouse. And also there's a railroad museum in there. So that was really cool. I mean, it's a lot of open spaces and a lot of people down there. Very much kind of like this thing you'd see in my neck of the woods, kind of like a San Francisco kind of deal there. So that was always a good to see. But yeah, but I mean but that's always kind of the interesting thing with Mosport in comparison is, again, what I said, it was kind of like Watkins Glen and Sears Point. It was very much like those two tracks, not just as a road course, but also as a track that's very remote, very very remote. When you're driving down these roads, exiting Toronto and going even further east along Lake Ontario, you almost think that you're going the wrong direction because you're just getting even further and further out in the boonies. And all of a sudden there's like a huge sign that says that it's right here. And you make like one left turn and suddenly there's like a go-kart track. There's a main entrance. There's the main entrance splits off. There's a tunnel that goes underneath those last two corners. And it's a very interesting track there. And it turned out to have a lot of interesting competitors in the field. I know the big thing during that weekend, one thing I definitely want to address in this, even though it's kind of old news at this point, was the whole situation with Tyler Dipple. First and foremost, I wanted to wish him the very best and hope that I mean, it's an unfortunate situation, the whole thing, how that got blown out of proportion. Talking over with my brother that weekend when it was heard that he was not going to be in the truck and that something had happened and that DJ Kennington got put in the truck in his place. It was very difficult to surmise what was happening. And when I did the entry list article, for example, and mentioned that Kennington was in the truck, I thought that it was pretty well established that he was stopped at the border. I didn't, that the sources that I had checked with, I did not check with the PR representative from Young's Motorsports. I was concerned about this being like a Jeremy Mayfield situation where maybe it was going to be very difficult to get the straight story or they didn't want to talk about it. But I did, I mentioned that he was stopped at the border. That turned out that was incorrect. I then changed it and I apologized as well on Twitter on that. And I do apologize again if that added any to the situation that happened there. It was, it's again, when I was mentioning, speaking with my brother here at the time, it sounded like it was, a situation where maybe he forgot his passport or it could be something completely innocent like that. And clearly that was the case. something about somebody else's prescription medication during a routine traffic stop. Those things happen. So again, I don't know if Tyler's watching. I doubt it. But again, best wishes to him. I hate that I missed him up there, and I hope that things are going better for him in the future races, Las Vegas, and going ahead. It seems like he was having some good runs coming up here. Good dirt tracker and everything like that. And I definitely want to make sure I mention that right off the bat. But I didn't pursue that story really any further at the track. Again, when I was over there, I didn't feel like I was going to get a lot of information. I kind of felt similar to with Dale Jr.'s return to the Xfinity Series at Darlington. I felt that was going to be well-trod ground from anybody that was there. And at the Truck Series race, for example, Alan Cavana and Hermie Sadler was there, and I figured, boy, well, they're gonna cover that before I even get there. So I'm going to leave it to those guys, different levels of access and all that sort of thing. But as it turned out that there was plenty to cover at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park throughout the field. It was very entertaining. It was very much a race that may not have been that competitive up front. I wanted to do this show at this point now because as of right now, I still haven't watched the actual live broadcast of both the situation with both the Mosport races, the Darlington race as well. I haven't watched the broadcast yet, so now I'm just kind of describing it more from my own personal perspective. I think probably what you guys saw is going to be very very different. And actually, before I lead into that as well, I know I've been very critical of the broadcasts in general. And but after going around Canadian Tire Motorsports Park and knowing how remote that place is and how few things you have to access out there, it's amazing that the broadcasts for that particular race go as well as they do. That is a very, very challenging event to cover. I don't know if I've emphasized that enough already at the start of this. As I mentioned, I think I mentioned this when I was attempting to live stream of the track. I don't know how well that came through because we were having all sorts of problems with interference out there, and it cut off when I was going back in the garage area. But the truck series race up there, you do not have access to scanners. There's no technical support for NASCAR scanners, no racing electronics booths that I came across. I contacted NASCAR officials directly on that, and that was not the situation there. Also, the track is, again, as I mentioned, very difficult to see all of it, virtually impossible unless you're on foot the entire time. And the NASCAR app, it only has access to the MRN broadcast. So, and then on top of that, when you're one of us folks here from the US going up to Canada, you got to make sure that your data plan is going to be working up there. We had actually just gotten that arranged together at the last moment, right before we flew out with an AT&T. They have what's called like a passport program that gives you about a month of access for a certain amount of gigs. And they really came through, not to turn this into an advertisement, but they did a very good job with that. We didn't have too many issues, and I believe until the end of the race I had to reboot my phone at one point, but other than that, it seemed like most of those tweets came up very quick, and that was something I was really concerned about. I didn't want to just sit on a lot of the information up there, wait till the last second, especially doing the live tweets at the last place finish battle, which ended up being collected there very quickly. But that was a very interesting situation out there, and it's a different deal up there. But it's I'm sorry, I lost track of my train of thought here. Very interesting venue for watching the drivers at the back of the field. And I think one thing that one driver that I really wanted to talk to that I didn't get a chance to talk to was Gary Clute. Even now, a couple weeks later, one thing that really stood out in my mind was his run in the number 44 truck for Nice Motorsports. He was coming off the last corner there, and every time he came through that corner, he had like two wheels off in the dirt. He was driving very aggressively, and at the very end of that race, when he was getting around Grant Enfinger, one of the playoff drivers, I thought that was very impressive. Unfortunately, we didn't meet up there. I would have loved to have talked to him after that because I think he was just having one heck of a run out there. And the Nice Motorsports team already having great runs with Ross Chastain. I think that was a story that would have been great to capture there. But definitely a shout out to Gary from the NASCAR Pinty series and having a good run out there. And the Canadian drivers were really cool to see. I mean, Kennington was up there in the Dipple truck. Unfortunately spun out off the last corner. We had video of that posted up there on the Twitter after the race. It was good to see Norm Benning up there. I had a great picture. I swear. The one issue I did have with my phone, it was unrelated to the data plan, was it just sometimes it would click like it was taking a picture and it wouldn't take it. I swear I had one where it was Norm Benning. He was sitting down in the shadow of his truck with sunglasses on, and he just looked, it was just so cool. I had like this great shot there, and I thought it took it. I've talked to him for a little bit and walked off, and I saw on the phone it wasn't on there. So by then they were rushing us off pit road. But given the other shots that we got, I think we'll take what we can on that. But it looked like a good race. I mean, I know it was unfortunate. It certainly wasn't a good race in a good finish. I mean, it's a tall order to top John Hunter Nemechek and Cole Custer wrecking each other and fighting in the grass. But boy, oh boy, they were absolutely flogging those trucks out there, and it was a really interesting battle, especially in stage 3. It was good to see. But yeah, double click, right? Yeah, I got you right there, man. And Spencer, yes, thank you for joining the NASCAR Patreon. We got your name there on the magnet. We're looking to do that again for future races. We'll get into that a little bit more too. Yeah, just kind of finish my thought here on the Mosport race in general. I mean, again, maybe not the most competitive battle up front, but I was really entertained by the track. It has a very old school feel. I think it's actually kind of better without a lot of the trappings of a ton of different fan amenities or like scanners or something like that. You're just there and you're just watching it, and that hill, I don't know how many good shots I got of it there. I mean, that hill was just packed by the start of that race. I don't know how many people were there. I've heard something in the neighborhood of 20,000 people. I don't know if it was more or less than that. Attendance figures are kind of hard to come by these days. But really, I mean, a really cool venue. We first got there, we got turned the wrong direction when we came in, and ended up driving through the tunnel, and we parked next to the Air Titans just short of the start finish line. And luckily we didn't get tagged. At the same time, the Land Rover that we got stuck with there at the Hertz dealership, we were supposed to get a car there, but then they directed us to this SUV because I guess they ran out for the Labor Day weekend or whatever was coming up. It was overheating, so we were pulled off, and we had like about 4 half-full bottled waters there. And we had to fill that thing up. Luckily we're close to a lot of mechanics. I don't know if we could have got maybe Norm's guys or something to take a look at it if we had any issues, but that was going to be our backup plan if anything happened there. But luckily the rest of the trip, we didn't have any mechanical issues there with that truck. And of course we did have the magnet on the door there. That was about the only metal spot on the car. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this actually, because it's pretty funny. Well, we got the Land Rover there. They gave us the same rate as a smaller car, so that was a nice deal with them. But the problem is the whole thing is like plastic. I mean, everything on that thing is plastic. So I was trying to find a spot for the magnet. My original thought was if we do a car and I wanted to put on the rear deck lid, kind of like, the sponsor things like in the like the Xfinity Cup or Xfinity kind of deal. Obviously that wasn't going to work. The back gate was plastic. The hood we were to look at the hood, and then that was plastic. So about the only place you could put it on is the driver's door. So we put that on there. And it stayed the whole trip, which given the weather that you saw at Darlington and how hot it was up in Canada, it was exactly the same car from Canada to Darlington. We picked it up in Buffalo, New York. We put the magnet on that night before we even pulled the truck out of the Hertz lot, and it was not removed until we pulled into the Shoney's in South Carolina the day before we flew back on Monday afternoon. It did not move. But it was marked with several people that joined on. And Spencer, again, thank you for being one of those guys. And definitely, again, we are planning on doing that magnet deal again. The next road trip we do, tentatively, we are looking at doing Phoenix and Texas, or Texas and Phoenix, starting in Texas and going to Phoenix this November. That's the next planned one. And if you're already in the Patreon now, or if you join up there, we'll put you on the next magnet. We'll do the same deal there. And do another giveaway. I think I just got a coupon from Vistaprint today, so I'd love to be able to take advantage of that and do that again. And as little as $1 in the Patreon will get you on there. And I'm very thankful again for any support you guys are able to give. That definitely was a big help on this trip in particular. And it also helped, hey, you want to get your name on a different rental car? I don't know what we're going to get next time. It's going to be interesting. But whatever it is, we're going to find a metal spot on there and put that thing on there, and you'll get some exposure. And if you join up later on there, we'll do the Corey LaJoy thing again too, and write your names on there. That was the other tricky thing too. We had a hard time finding. I didn't think anybody was going to join. Like I was cool with that, like whatever. But I was completely unprepared for anybody to join during the trip. So we had a hard time finding metallic Sharpies. Big thanks to the people who joined on there for their patience. But we finally got some in Warren, Pennsylvania, and stopped by there and got those pens, and we started putting those in there. I think Cyber Shroom was the first one we added, so that was a pretty good deal. Um, let's see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm seeing your comment there, Beast of Metal. Yeah. I don't, maybe I won't, I mean, I'm thinking of maybe locking that in and just saying, look, like we're going to put whoever's name is on there. But yeah, that certain group that signed up on there, I wasn't sure how to put that on there, but you know what, they pay the dollar. So I'm going to put it on there right on. I apologize if that offended anybody or anything like that. That was my call. Look, if you, there's certain common sense things. I'm not going to just put anything on there, but they paid their donation on that, so I'm going to put that on there. But yeah, if whoever's on there, we'll do printed ones on there so that it's actually more visible, and then yeah, anybody who joins up afterwards, we'll add that on there. So yeah, I think we will lock in the ones who are already in there now, especially since it's now the beginning of September. And if we do the one in Phoenix, it's only going to be a couple months away. So I think we'll lock in whoever's in now, and that'd be a nice little thanks there. And then we can kind of expand to it from there. But yeah, but that was the magnet really. And yeah, it stayed on the whole time, including the rain. And the pens worked well too, because none of the names got streaked off of there, which is better than some of the other pens that we worked with in the past. But yeah, I mean, again, with Mosport, granted, great track. I mean, right when I walked in there, the track staff there was immediately helpful. They showed like where everything is. The food there was great. They have like again, and just to kind of really put a point on the whole throwback aspect of this whole last week. I mean, it was very much like that at Mosport, because you walk through the kind of the souvenir, like the fan alley. It's like on the inside of, right after you go across the pedestrian bridge from that front straightaway on the other side there near the garage area. There was about, I think there was one hauler that sold like programs and t-shirts from the track. And there was about 5 or 6 like food trucks and smaller tents. They called it the marketplace. And the marketplace had some, I have to say, I was very surprised that Canada, even more than Darlington, I would say, had like fantastic food over there. I mean, no offense to Canada. I mean, I was gonna be happy with whatever they had, but they had a truck that had like pizza cones. Like they would have like a slice of pizza they would wrap up, and they would just dump cheese into it, and like they would cook that. That was good. And then they also had fresh baked mini donuts. Like the little Hostess donuts. They had like plain ones, and they dumped them in a deep fryer in one of these trucks. And then you get a dozen of them. I think you got a dozen of them for like $5 Canadian. So like $3.50, I guess, American thereabouts. And then they had like these different things of like powdered sugar, or like powdered sugar mixed with chocolate, or different things. And they didn't police it. So you can just like dump all that stuff in there. And let me tell you something. I'm glad that that's not here on this side of the line, because you would have to roll me from one place to the other. Oh, sorry about that. After that, that was quite the culinary treat there. Also, you got to try the poutine. I did not try that. However, the last bro did, and said that was very good. I'm sorry. I know I'm doing this about dinner time, so I apologize if I'm getting you guys hungry, but man, oh man. I mean, I'm told the way the last bro described it was poutine tastes like Thanksgiving dinner. Like you're eating that with gravy and fries and cheese curds, and it's like, yeah, it's like eating a whole meal. Now, if I did that, I'd probably be asleep for the rest of the afternoon. So that was kind of the deal on that. But great food there, great food, and great people. Again, I want to big thanks to the folks out there. Daylon Barr was sitting next to me, and we were kind of playing around about the debate about putting numbers on the rear quarter panels versus the side door, since the Pinty's guys had those, and also the Nissan Micra guys that are running up there. But that was a lot of fun. And yes, and you mentioned Jordan Anderson. I mean, man, what a great story on that. That turned into being that was really the bigger story that we kind of followed during that weekend, was a lot of that that wreck that he had. I don't know if the practices got broadcast for that race. I don't believe they did. I haven't checked Hulu yet to see if they did, because Hulu didn't work up there either. If you're from the States, so you're very much on your own. They have Wi-Fi at the media center, of course, so you can access anything that's on YouTube. Yeah, there were very hard wrecks in practice. 3 very hard wrecks between Stuart Friesen, Sheldon Creed, and Jordan Anderson. And Anderson's was very scary because he lost the brakes and backed it into the wall. and he did not have a backup because he was entering trucks for the Roos brothers, who, by the way, are very cool guys, and big LASCAR fans. They actually they patted me on the back going down the front straightaway there, and we talked after the race. I talked with the both of them there. I still have the quotes. I haven't put that into an article yet. I actually have quite a few quotes from some people here that I haven't published yet, but I'm going to hope to get some more stuff to put on there. But that'll be really good. But Jordan Anderson, I mean, wow, what a story there. I mean, they were working on getting that truck back up there. They had the rear clip cut off with just within a few hours. They came in like first thing the next morning, and there were other guys helping them. I don't know if the pictures did it justice, but they did a really good job on that, just hammering the dents out. They had the same logos put back on there, and he had a solid finish out there too. And he was not running conservatively out there, I would say. Anderson was very aggressive out there, as we've seen him do, especially on the mile and a halves there, where he gets a good performance out there. So definitely a shout out to Anderson. And he was very kind enough to talk to me there during what was a very difficult situation. I waited until race day to kind of pick up with him on that. But very cool for him on there. But Anderson was cool. Again, the Roos brothers, the connection being through the WCIparts.com, being one of the sponsors there on the Anderson truck. And again, they've been both. They became aware of me when I wrote an article. I think it was on Roger Roos when he was last at Mid Ohio driving a second car for Mike Harmon. And they were very cool. I mean, they were up there. They were wearing Canadian ball caps and stuff. They were very eager to celebrate the region and ingratiate themselves with everybody up there. Same thing up here. I was where I put the little Canadian. I still have the Canadian pin that I put in my last car hat up there. I was eager to find one. We got that up at the Welland Canal Museum. Up there north of the border. I'm very big into shipping and ocean liner history and the Laker freighters as well. The Edmund Fitzgerald, certainly chief among those. They had some great displays. Unfortunately, we went to the canals. They didn't have any ships come through there until like later that evening. By then, we were kind of traveling around, checking out some more places, miniature golf courses, go-kart tracks. There's a lot of stuff to do up there. And if you definitely know where to look, Toronto, I'd highly recommend. Toronto is very bustling, and there's a lot to do up there. Very busy metropolis, and definitely check out the Steam Whistle Brewery up there. Great people up there. I don't know. Again, as I mentioned on Twitter, I don't really drink a lot of beer, but that was very good. I have to say, that was nothing like it when you get it straight from the brewery. I tried the Pilsner specifically. I thought was quite good. Also, that was interesting on the way up to Mosport. I think one of the first things we posted was the original site where President William McKinley was assassinated. I believe there's a story called Devil in the White City. That's I believe that's the book that's about it, where it was the account of a former president that in 1901 lost his life at a World's Fair in Buffalo at Exposition Park. Exposition Park is now the middle of a large suburb, and there's a small, very small monument in the middle of the road there. That was what we took pictures of. I believe that was the first historical site we saw on the way up north across the border. So again, a lot of hidden history as well. Let me turn the microphone this way. I'm not sure how well you can hear me. But yeah, I mean, Buffalo was we kind of did that a bit more the last trip when we were up there in New York, but Mosport was definitely more the emphasis. And the Pinty's guys were cool. I was kind of doing a crash course in that, if you will, studying the different drivers, and I hope you enjoyed the little Pinty's last car article we did that weekend. It ended up being on one of the drivers I didn't have a whole lot of notes for, so I apologize if it was a little short. I did talk to him. He was very polite, but he was very brief, so I didn't get much of a quote on that. He had a transmission issue there, I believe, if I remember correctly, and the car just stopped in turn one, and that was the end of the day there. He did have that, again, the throwback theme there. He had the old Kenny Irwin numbers on his car. I thought that was kind of cool. I almost thought of, I probably should have asked him about that, but I don't know if he would have responded to that or anything. But and during that trip, actually, I thought for sure that Kyle Larson was going to run a Kenny Irwin throwback, so I brought my Bell South hat with me just in case. When I found out it was the Ricky Craven one, I wasn't too disappointed because that was another of my favorite paint schemes from back in the 90s, and it looked pretty good. I think it would look better with white numbers on the doors, quite honestly, than the red numbers. I think the red numbers look like a little bit too much going on. But very nice throwback, and had a good run too, a good second place finish for him. But yeah, I mean, I would say if you get a chance to go to Mosport, I mean, kind of my thought going in there is, like, I have to find the best way to see those last two turns, because more than likely the action is going to happen there. That's where everything builds up to. Moss Hairpin is a beautiful area. I think it's easily the second best place to see it, because you're basically on like the end of like a big slope. You're sitting up there, the track's down here, and then you can see all the way from like the entrance into the corner all the way to like the corner exit that goes back uphill and into the straightaway. You see a good portion of the more technical part of the track there. But I love those last two corners though, because you can just see them sling it through there, and they're always getting two wheels off. But again, Gary Clute, I think, was doing the best job with that. But Brett Moffitt pulling off the victory there. A lot of the playoff drivers still up there. It's good to see Ross Chastain get a stage victory. And Ray Cicerelli, your last place finisher. I had staged myself at the right where the garage entrance was. There's a very nice little narrow road that branches off from behind pit road. When you go on the pit road entrance, it's very wide because it splits. On the left side is the entrance to pit road. And on the right is one, if you keep going straight on it, it'll drive you just straight into those garage outbuildings. But if you take an even harder right after that, they basically cone it off and signal you in. It goes down this narrow gated path. That's the only other entrance into the garage area for the truck series, but it's not really used as an exit. But it was really cool to do the truck series up there, because Cicerelli was very cool talking with him. Especially kind of what we turned the big theme there for was about his top 10 finish at Michigan, driving the number 49. And he said he's going to be running some more races later this year. Perhaps, I believe he said Phoenix and Homestead, if I remember correctly. I know Phoenix stood out. Oh, hey, Judson. I'll see when you get back, man. Great run for Cicerelli at Michigan. Unfortunately, more of a start park issue at Mosport, although that truck never sounded right the whole time they got there. They had a big miss in the engine, and every time it came by, it sounded like there was like a gravel in the carburetor or something. Something was just off. But they got it out there and had a few laps there before he pulled out. And we got some great shots of the truck there, and a lot of the small teams out there. Again, Norm Benning had a large number of people out there helping him, wearing the bright yellow shirts. Again, incidentally, that Rob Taylor designed the design on the back of those. Benning seemed to have a good number of supporters up there, so that was good to see. Stuart Friesen got a lot of applause there in the opening ceremonies. I think Kennington got a little bit more applause from the crowd there. So everybody was definitely overjoyed to see Kennington do a bit of unexpected double duty between the Pinty series and the truck series. Really, the only drawback, I guess, with Mosport is the best view of those last two corners, as I mentioned on Twitter, is cordoned off from the general access, and I think that's just there so that most of the crowd is basically around the area of the start finish line. If you want the best access to see those last two turns, you either have to be in the media center or get into like the VIP section, which is built into the same building. And what that does is that creates there's this gated section over there that's separated off, and you can walk all the way the grass all the way up to that barrier, and you are extremely close to the track at that point. A lot of the footage that I had, I don't know if it came across that I was shooting from there. It was extremely close to the track, including that clip I had of the last lap of the race. You could get very close to the action, and I think that's why I ended up staying in that part of the track there. I was just enjoying that section in general, and staying close to the garage area and all that. It's good to talk with Greg Rail. We talked with him driving the number 32 truck, another driver that we featured a little bit earlier this year when he crashed in the first lap at Gateway. Finally got to meet him in person. Thought it was interesting that his nickname was Short Stack. Saw that on the graphic that on top of his truck there. Said it was for taking his team to pancake houses all the time, and he also happens to be a rather short gentleman. But he also very quickly went into crew chief mode once he got out of the truck. He was helping Dan Corcoran after he wrecked the number 33 truck, since Rail is also a crew chief for the Rian brothers. So he put on the crew chief hat and was helping out the 33 after they had, I think, pretty much the only wreck during the race itself. They had a bit of a tangle there. That was unfortunate for Corcoran because he gave a really good interview earlier And I'm still waiting some information from their public relations department. They have some promotional material that they said they're going to gather for me, so I'm going to reach out to them and try to get that together. And I'd like to turn that into a feature as well, because he was an older gentleman competing in the truck series. He seemed a little embarrassed by how his race ended, but I mean, come on, these are very aggressive drivers out there, regardless of age, and it's a challenging deal up there. But yeah, and yes, yeah, of course, Kennington being a local Canadian, of course, and in the Pinty series on top of that too. Yeah, of course, he was getting the most cheers there because of that. So very true. I almost thought Friesen was going to get more celebration because he won Eldora more recently, but I really do think Kennington was. He seemed to be more the crowd favorite, at least from what I saw, and maybe they enjoyed kind of the donut he did on the last lap there, even though that clearly wasn't intentional. But yeah, a lot of interesting teams out there. I liked seeing a lot of the smaller teams back there. There was a lot of really tight racing between Norm Benning and Jennifer Jo Cobb near the end of the race. I know that I don't think that probably got shown in the broadcast very well, but it was very entertaining. So I think that they had a good show out there. And also Josh Rialm had a lot of struggles out there in the number 8 truck. It was unfortunate to see him struggle out there. I believe a suspension issue ultimately pulled them out. But Cicerelli ended up being kind of a bigger part of the story. We did that, and that was good to see. But yeah, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, again, a very challenging track because it's very much an old school event, throwback in a very different sense of the term. But a very unique track and a very unique fan base out there that were very passionate. You can tell this is a date that in that region is circled on their calendar. I know it's circled on Rob's calendar. But yeah, and exactly. You mentioned the 8 truck being part of the Rialm brothers there, under the Nemco Motorsports owners points, of course, but that ended up being moot with only, I believe, 29 trucks up there. But it's unfortunate that he didn't have quite as good of a run as some of the other teams there. Jason White running in the 34 truck, and then Corcoran. Well, I guess it was kind of a rough weekend in general for him. I mean, the 8 had suspension problems, the 32 parked. 33 got in a wreck, and then Jason White, I think, was like 21st or 22nd thereabouts. So, yeah, okay. I guess it was kind of. I was trying to put a smiley face on that, but I guess it was kind of a difficult week. Nope, I just knocked the camera sideways. There we go. Bring it back. Yeah, again, Canada, really enjoyed it. Again, big thanks to the folks at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for hosting us. Big thanks to Robert Taylor for taking us in. Rob brought some of his drawings up there to the track. He had, including Jordan Anderson's truck. When Anderson signed it, Taylor told him, was like, look, we can crinkle the back of it if you want it to look like the truck he got out here. So that was really cool. Yeah, again, really enjoyed it up north of the border. I mean, it was very similar to what we did at Watkins Glen last year. And I recommend checking it out. I think it's a unique venue. It's almost basically a 2-day venue. We didn't go up there on Friday, but they do have the truck series, the Pinty series. They also have this, again, I mentioned this, what was it? I think the Nissan Micra series, where they run these really, really tiny subcompacts out there. And I don't know how they get around this track with all its hills and everything, because they're so underpowered. But they put on a pretty good race too, I got to say. I wasn't following it that closely, but pretty good deal for them as well. And I think they also had the F2000s, or I'm not as familiar with open wheel racing, but kind of the tiny little like the kinds James Hunt ran before he ran Formula One kind of deals. They had about, I think, 7 or 8 of those guys out there, and they were putting on a good show. Yeah, big thanks out there to all the people up there. And yeah, really enjoyed following the small teams. Truck series is very much a throwback in that sense, almost kind of like the ARCA series. You can see the reflection in my head. My goodness. Okay. But I want to also give a big thanks to Angela Campbell over at Speedway Media. We talked with her up there, and we got to do a podcast over there a few days after the race. The Women in Wheels podcast. We had a great show on there talking about NASCAR. She was sitting across from me over at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and we did a great interview up there and all that. And she was very entertained by the concept of the last place finishers. I got to say, it's always a good icebreaker for sure. But yeah, we'll move along here. I think we covered Mosport pretty good. Let's move along to getting into Darlington here. And just in between, I'll give you an idea of kind of our route leading into that. Obviously, for those of you following on Twitter during that week, you'd see basically where we went. We started off again. We were leaving Bowmanville, Ontario. We followed around the outside of Lake Ontario towards Toronto. We checked out some railway museums on the way over there. We stopped over at Rob's place at Niagara Falls, got across the border. Then at that point, we were originally looking to take kind of an immediate route down south, but there wasn't really much to see in terms of like landmarks on the way. So we took a hard left-hander and we went straight over towards Gettysburg direction. We stopped in Warren, Pennsylvania the first night on the drive down there. I got up, went over. We reached Gettysburg by like late afternoon. We were just able to do that before it got dark. After that, we worked south again from there and into Fredericksburg, Virginia. We stayed the night there again. Looked at some more of the Civil War landmarks in the area. We checked out Chancellorsville, the Wilderness, and Spotsylvania Courthouse. Definitely highly recommended. Big history buff, so always anxious to see the areas down there. Last time I've been to Gettysburg was it was 1996, so that was a long time ago. They made it very accessible. All those Civil War battlefields, you can take really nice driving tours through there. They have very knowledgeable docents down there and everything, and really fascinating history from an interesting chapter in American history, of course. And so there were even other ones we want to check out. We want to do Appomattox Courthouse and some of those down there too, Antietam as well. We didn't get around to there. We kind of went through Maryland pretty quick after we got through Fredericksburg and all that. We basically, let's see, we did that, and then we went southeast from there back down to Kill Devil Hills. We did the Wright Brothers Museum in up in down in North Carolina, and Digger's Dungeon. We got there. Unfortunately, we got there after the diner closed, but we got there before the gift shop and the race team closed. And although Mr. Anderson wasn't there with his team, they were working on other trucks in there at the time, so we were able to check that out. That was really cool. No cavity searches at the border. No problems with that. We got through the border just fine. We were definitely not looking for any trouble. But yeah, just it's like, what are your business or pleasure? It's like, well, business. We're up here to cover a NASCAR race. Okay, go on. So we just did that, and that was it. Took only pictures, left only footprints. Yeah, we got through there. Let's see. So Kill Devil Hills, we did that. We did the Wright Brothers Museum. I think that was probably one of the best museums we did on the entire trip. To think that that's where the first powered flight took place, and the way that they've kept it very minimal, that really they didn't put a whole lot of garish, ridiculous stuff out there. I mean, there's a gift shop and a museum, I get that, but there's a lot of room to like spread around and like walk out there and really get the scale of it. And I think what's really cool is that there's an airfield right behind it, so you can see actual planes and helicopters taking off. It's like a private airfield, or like not a international airport, of course, but like a smaller regional airport. And that's pretty cool. It really puts it in perspective. So definitely recommend you check that out if you're ever in that area. It's also a nice touristy area as well. Again, there's a lot of good like miniature golf courses and some go-kart tracks. That's where I took a picture of the one with the NASCAR go-karts there. That was a lot of fun. So we did that. And that took most of the day there. So by the time it started getting darker, we wanted to get to Jamestown in down there, like do the Jamestown settlement, but that was closed. We ended up grabbing a pizza there on the way and just eating that down. That was basically the longest portion of it. I think we spent about 5 or 6 hours on getting between Kitty Hawk down to our hotel. We were stayed in Sumner, South Carolina, which is about an hour southwest of the track. It's a bit closer than Lumberton. We stayed north of the track in 2017. That's about an hour and a half drive. And as it turned out, with the action during the weekend, that half hour made a great deal of difference, as you can probably imagine. So I'll tell you about that. But yeah, we got into Sumner, South Carolina very late on Thursday. We hit all those other hotels on the way there. We just kind of did that. Obviously keeping an eye on the weather at the same time. And again, I'll take this opportunity to, extend my well wishes as well to anybody in Florida, the Southeast, and out in the outlying islands there that's bearing down with Hurricane Dorian. A very scary situation. I know that it's mixed news when you get a hurricane that's stalled out. Okay, maybe that's going to save some places, but it's going to hammer some places in a pretty different deal out there. But yeah, really enjoyed the Outer Banks out there. I hope they weather everything okay. Because we last time we went out in 2017, we went to Charleston, South Carolina for Fort Sumter, and I think 2 days after we came back from there, they had a storm surge through a lot of the same places that we just walked through, which is really weird. And I can only imagine what they're dealing with in that region there. So we're definitely have our thoughts for you guys down there, and we hope that everything comes through out there. But what was interesting is that I think kind of a foreshadowing a bit to the weather that we ended up having in Darlington is when we were we stayed at we found a nice affordable little hotel on the Outer Banks, right across from the Wright Brothers Museum. And we sprung for getting a little extra to get a room that was facing the water, which was really cool because there was actually a lot of storm clouds out over the ocean. And you could see like in cloud lightning, like they look like flash bulbs out there, and it would light up like a little cloud, or there would be a ship on the horizon. It would illuminate that. It was really cool. I got to say, I mean, it's better when the weather's off the distance like that, not coming at you, of course, but that was really cool. I think the part on the Outer Banks was probably the most enjoyable part of it. We had aside from the races themselves. The Civil War battlefields were definitely fascinating though too. We definitely been meaning to do that for some time. We didn't really get a chance to do that when we went through the Carolinas a couple of years ago, but that was good. Um, okay, that's okay, excellent. Got some more videos I got to watch. I got a whole playlist of stuff. We didn't really leave ourselves too much time to watch a lot of YouTube and stuff, so I got to catch up on that too. But yeah, we did the but so yeah, we finally got in there safe and sound over to Sumter, South Carolina. We stayed at a little hotel, the Mount Vernon Inn in Sumter, South Carolina, again, a little bit southwest of the track. What that gave us, fortunately, was about 3 different routes to get to the track, which was good because there were a couple roads that were closed during that week. And we started doing that. So this was the big adjustment because again, the big difference with this trip is I've never done coverages for 2 consecutive races before and strung them together like this. Again, the Darlington portion came together very late in the deal there. But we definitely once we started hearing about some of the promotions being done there, certainly between the theme of being NASCAR in the early 1990s, the Scene Vault doing their the return to the magazine, and a lot of the drivers that were up there. I mean, my gosh, we couldn't say no. I mean, we had to make that happen, and I'm so glad we did, and I'm so glad you guys were along with us for the ride there. So we got into Darlington, and Friday it was hot, and I mean, and this is coming from somebody in the East Bay here in California, which is extremely hot, especially in the summer. It was scorching on Friday. I cannot overstate that. Given the heat issues that a lot of these drivers had at Sears Point when we were covering the NASCAR races up there, I don't know how they dealt with it. It was, there were guys out there that were doing extremely long tire runs out there, burning those tires down and everything. But offsetting that were some absolutely gorgeous paint schemes. I think one thing that stands out in my mind immediately was getting through there, and I walked to the far end of the Cup garage. I mean, I couldn't wait. I was literally like again, I saw Steve Wade. I dropped my computer off and I just sprinted into the garage. I couldn't wait to see these cars because I remember what it was like in 2017 seeing them too. And the Darlington garage looks just like it does in Days of Thunder. It's very small, very cramped, and I love it. I mean, it puts all these cars like right next to each other. There's just enough room for all of them. Which is interesting because the track's flipped around. I mean, they don't really make the Cup garage that different from the Xfinity garage. But at any rate, went in there. I walked around the corner. You can see a couple of them. See the City Chevrolet car with William Byron. I mean, it was gorgeous. And then I went around the corner, and there was that line of cars there. It was Bubba Wallace's car, the Adam Petty tribute, the Jimmy Means tribute on Michael McDowell, the Dale Jarrett Nestle Crunch one for Corey LaJoy, the Matt Tifft one, the number 36. I mean, it was every color of the rainbow, and it really is a commentary, I guess, on paint schemes everywhere else. It's like, why can't we have that all the time? I think some of these companies are a little too set in their ways about how they're going to make their cars look and everything. It would be nice if there was a little bit more variety that way. But just fantastic. I loved. I mean, oh gosh, I can't even pick one. that entire group there was perfect. Loved the Bubba Wallace tribute car there and all that. But yeah, practice was definitely very difficult out there. They were just buzzing through those, but I imagine there was a lot of dehydration there. One thing I got to say, maybe it was just a deal um, uh, with the weather conditions between how hot it was on Friday and how much rain there was on Sunday. But I found it a lot more difficult, at least for me personally, to find a lot of veteran drivers or like the old school guys there, which was frustrating because they were definitely there. I mean, they were there for the opening ceremonies. I must have just been in the wrong place, the wrong time for a lot of that weekend. I thought it was going everywhere. But I found it much easier to find the current drivers than the veteran guys. In 2017, it was the exact opposite. I had a very hard time finding the regular guys, and the veterans I was tripping over. I saw Mike Wallace and Tiger Tom Pistone and Billy Fulcher and Frank Warren, all those guys. I mean, they were everywhere. And this time I was going pretty much the same places. I guess just not at the right times. But I know there was I wanted to talk. I mean, Chuck Bound, I was looking for him. I wanted to see him because I had some questions about like his time with Bobby Allison's team and all that. Um, I mean, Tommy Houston was there. Some of these other guys. I mean, yeah, about the only veteran retired driver that I talked to was Richard Petty. And actually, I do have to mention this because this was $1 million question that I left on the table when I did the JD McDuffie book. And as you can see, I have the picture of JD's car from Watkins Glen here. One question that I left on the table back in, I think 2016, at Sears Point, when I interviewed him about JD, was about the fan appreciation tour. And it's a difficult subject, of course, about the King's retirement on top of it. But I went ahead and just asked it because I was just being as direct as I could. And I said, Richard, thank you for, your help on the JD McDuffie book. I know it's not a difficult subject, but I wanted to ask you this. Obviously in 1992, you had your retirement season. In October of 1991, you made the announcement. JD McDuffie's accident happened in August of 1991. Did one cause the other, or did you already decide to retire before JD's accident? And he was very brief on it, but he was very polite about it, as much as one can be. And he said the decision was already made. That was the word from him directly. He said that he had already decided to retire before JD's accident. So I know that was, for those of you who have read the book, I know when I wrote that portion there, I left that up in the air because I didn't get confirmation of that one way or the other, but I have now received that confirmation straight from him directly that apparently he had already decided that he was going to retire in 1992 prior to August 11th, 1991. But I imagine that, certainly when that happened, given how long they'd competed against each other and what Richard offered before talking about JD, I'm certainly that made his family and himself, I'm sure, even more anxious to reach the finish line. But the competitor that he is, I think that it was clear that I wasn't going to get more information than that, and I didn't ask a follow up and just left it there. But for those of you who are curious about that, I did get a follow up on that, and that was brought up there. But again, on lighter notes there, again, a lot of the older competitors were very hard for me to find. I didn't find, I think it was, oh gosh, there were so many people there. Was it Seth that provided the pictures there with Ted Musgrave and Ron Hornaday? I didn't see either of them. I would have thought I could spot them at 50 clicks, but I didn't see them. I didn't see them at all. So kudos to him for finding them. What I read, I mean, but what was really cool about this trip, and this was mentioned earlier with Canada meeting Steve McLean up there. Just running into so many people that were fans of the website. It was actually it almost felt like 50% interviewing drivers and 50% catching up with readers of the website, and that was really exciting to me. I mean, that just meant the world, because I feel so often that I'm just sitting in here just banging away on this stuff here, and we're not the biggest fish in the pond here, but it's very clear from seeing your guys' comments in here and what we do on the website and everything, that it's a very dedicated fan base as well. And it was great. I mean, I wish I could have caught up with there were even more people that were there that I couldn't catch up to. And I apologize if you guys are in here and we didn't meet up there, but this is not going to be our last race. I can assure you of that. We're going to be doing some more races, and boy, the Darlington thing was just perfect for that. And one thing that helped with that, of course, was this right here. This rumple hat right here got a lot more attention than I thought it was going to, and even I almost didn't pack this, quite honestly. I this is one of the last things I grabbed on the way out the door, because the big thing I was originally going to do was wearing the 43rd story website hat. It's just kind of a throwback to the website, which was a fun thing. I mean, it's 10th anniversary season for the website. That was cool and everything. It also gave me a good hat to wear when it was raining because I didn't want to get this thing wet because this is the only one of these I have. But this was just the perfect occasion for that. So I started wearing this, I believe, on Saturday, and people were stopping and they were like, "Oh my god, where did you get this thing?" And again, literally, for those of you who don't know, this was from after again doing the biography. We did the media tour at Watkins Glen last year. And two of these hats, this one was one of them, were sent up to Charlie Birch, who was hosting us so graciously over at his home there that week. We were staying up there, and one of these was for him. He wore it on the TV segment that was on WETM 18 with Andy Malnasaki and those guys. And the other hat is in this hand right now. And I wore it at Watkins Glen, I believe, on race day that Sunday. And I hadn't worn it since. I think I maybe had worn it around just like around the house or around town here, but this was the first race I'd worn it to since then, and people really liked it. I mean, Matthew Dillner, like he was sitting across from me in the media center, and he was like, he had this really serious look on his face, and I was like, oh my god, like did I do something wrong? Because I always think that. I still feel like kind of an outsider. I sit in there, I'm like, oh man, did I say the wrong thing? Did I do something that angered somebody? Did I take a picture of something I shouldn't have? What was going on here? It was like, and he's like, that. He's like, that is the coolest hat. And I'm like, yeah. It's like, I was like, oh, good. Okay, good. So we're good. So that was really cool. So it was again for the era. I mean, a big thanks to Kerry Tharp and the folks for going all in with the 1990 to 1994 era. I mean, that was my golden era too. I mean, that was a time period that I always look back at. That was the era that got me into the sport, the era that brought us Days of Thunder, the era that brought, that unfortunately we lost drivers like JD McDuffie, like Clifford Allison, like Alan Kowicki, like Davey Allison, like Neil Bonnet, and like Rodney Orr, just to name a few. It was a very formative period in the sport's history, both the good and the bad. And I think that this came across really well. So yeah. So I don't know if this will be a thing I'll wear at all the races, but it definitely fit there, and I'm certainly open to bringing that back out. We'll see if I do it for Phoenix and Texas later this year, but that's what we're looking at on that end. But again, with Darlington, we did a few interviews along the way there. I didn't really do, as I mentioned with the Dale Jr. thing, I didn't really pursue that because, again, much like the Dipple situation, I felt that was going to be well trod ground. I tend to avoid that when I do my media stuff, because just like any media member, when you're there, when you choose to cover one thing, you're choosing not to cover basically anything else at that moment. And when people look left, I try to look right in those situations. I did go over there just to see the crowd. And actually right after that, that was when I interviewed Mike Harmon, and I'd never had a chance to talk to him. So I'm glad I got to. I should have asked him more about the relationship that he has between the 74 and the 17. That escaped me at the moment. It looks like that they, it's an interesting partnership between them, between the Harmon team and the Rick Ware team to make that work. But really crazy deal there. Oh, Andrew, you got a Blu-ray of Days of Thunder? That is a treat. I'll tell you. You'll see little details in that movie you probably didn't see before. I know that was definitely my experience. I still haven't seen Steve Letart's review of that, but I'm going to have to check that out. Take care, Beast of Metal. We'll do another show in Indianapolis. Hope to see you there, man. But yeah, it was Darlington was a really cool event there again, and in spite of very difficult weather conditions on all fronts. So I mentioned the weather conditions on Friday being really aggressive, really very, very hot. I didn't, really talk with a lot of the drivers there at that time. A lot of them were actually brought into the media center, including Ryan Newman, Jimmy Johnson. That's where I got the picture of Johnson without the beard. Daniel Hemrick was in there, Eric Almirola, a few others. During that whole time, it seemed like Stuart Haas's team was making a lot of struggles there. Daniel Suarez's car had a little trouble getting through inspection, but did. Then there was Almirola hit the wall and had to go to a backup car. And then you had on the Xfinity side with other teams, you had the Joe Gibbs team, of course, with Denny Hamlin going to a backup car. Didn't seem like he had that much damage. But again, I'm sure that these are, especially on the higher end teams, these are pretty highly strung cars out there, and they had the other car covered up, and so they went to a backup at that point. But let's see. Yeah, Friday was pretty open ended, open ended on that. I mean, relatively clean, other than a couple of incidents like that with Almirola and Hamlin and those guys. But Saturday, Sunday, we got kind of a later start for both those days. Once we found, because I think in 2017 we came out there really early. A big thing with Darlington is they're very specific about when the gates open. If you're coming in there as just a fan, you're pretty much not gonna get in there before like 12 or 12:30 thereabouts. Especially on Sunday. Media is a little bit different situation. We were parking the media lot there with the sign, and by that point we had gained. I think we have like 11, maybe 12 people on there on the magnet. So that was really cool. And at that point, by Saturday, the clouds were starting to roll in. And as you see, during the Xfinity race, it looks pretty sunny there at the start of it, but then the clouds are rolling in. And this kind of brings me up the other thing I was working on there during that weekend. Something I was toying with going into these couple of races is the option of doing a live video version of following last place, and finding a good spot on the track that was staged relatively close enough to the garage area that would allow for that to happen. And I remembered the Xfinity Series garage from 2017 because back then I was working back there, and last place was settled very quickly. There were a lot of cars that were coming in and out, and I was expecting a very similar situation to that here 2 years later. I believe in 2017 you had Jeff Green go behind the wall, then you had Carl Long was in there, and he came back out. You also had some other competitors coming back there. I think another one of Carl Long's cars was back there. Then at the same time, all of a sudden Matt Tiff's car gets towed by, and it turns out he had the last place finish there, so that ended up being the story. So that was an interesting story from there. But I did think about doing this video deal, and the way I'd set it up was just holding my cell phone in one hand there, and then doing microphone kind of thing with my audio recorder. Neither of them have the best microphone, of course. This is very much an amateur kind of hour thing, but I just kind of did. I've seen Pockers do something similar to that with like a camera and the microphone to make sure to get the quote and the video. Tried that this time. For those of you who haven't seen the video, there's a link to it in the Xfinity Series article that shows Morgan Shepherd being the first car behind the wall. I thought it was actually kind of interesting. I mean, it was kind of fun to do. I was really jacked up. You can definitely tell from the audio. I don't know how well the sound came across. I know that it was it maybe is a bit challenging to listen to at the time, but we did that, and it was interesting. It was entertaining. I mean, it was interesting following the back of the field, and I thought it was gonna be kind of an easier way to track the battle back there. And it ended up being Morgan Shepherd coming back behind the wall. But as I reported at the time, Shepherd wasn't feeling very well. Apparently, I heard from somebody else he was coughing over the radio. I was listening to the MRN broadcast, so I didn't hear the radio traffic with him. I just left it open there. I should have switched it to the officials channel. That would have made it an easier way to handle it. I ended up doing that for the Cup race, but my goodness, we did the Shepherd pulled the car into the garage area, and he was getting helped out of the car. His wife was there. A couple of members of his crew were looking under the hood. Apparently, it had some kind of an electrical issue or a miss in the engine. He completed 27 laps out there, and other drivers were pulling down pit road earlier, like Mike Harmon and stuff. And he seemed like he was doing okay, but I saw him. He was walking okay. He was talking okay. Well, no, he wasn't really talking, okay, but he was walking all right. He took a seat. He had a sports drink in his hand. But I was walking up to him to ask a question. The camera's kind of aimed downward at that point, and I wanted to kind of get a quick quote out of him, but he kind of waved me off. He was very polite about it. I can't emphasize that enough. He says, like, look, I can't speak right now. I think yeah. I mean, I just left him at that point. I was like, okay, nope, we're good. So I backed off at that point. Just went back to filming the car and ended the clip there. So didn't end up being. I mean, you can't plan on these things. I mean, when you do any of these last place battles there, I mean, it could be under a different situation. I thought in the results it was actually going to show maybe fatigued or driver ill as the reason out, but it ended up showing electrical there for the issue. And yes, that was that he was suffering from bronchitis. That was I was told that directly from his PR person that was there at that time. I was told that immediately after I stopped that recording. At that point, I had a kind of a difficult decision to make. about whether to post that video or maybe cut the ending off. I actually had a lead in that was longer than that I took out of the video, and I ended up not putting that in. I looked at the video before posting it. I saw that, he was kind of, a little ginger coming out of the car. I don't show like his face or anything like that when I go up to talk to him, and I was like, well, I think this should be okay, but difficult situation there. I wasn't going to follow them into the hall or anything like that. That wasn't that important at that point. But once I got the rest of the story from the PR person, I was pretty satisfied with the information I was able to get on that. And then ultimately, he wasn't the last place finisher, so we had that to deal with, and that also gave me questions about posting the video. But I'm getting mixed reviews on it. I also have mixed feelings about doing them as well. I think it was worthy experiment to do. Probably not the best race to do it. I mean, it's unfortunate it ended up being Shepard in that story. Maybe if it had turned out being Harmon or somebody else, we probably could have got a more interesting, more of an interview, somebody feeling well. But again, I want to extend my thoughts over to Morgan. I hope he's feeling much better out there. I said this to every other person I was talking to, especially after that race. Like, if I have a bronchial infection, you cannot roll me out of bed. You cannot get me out of the house. That man is in his 70s and he did 27 laps at Darlington. That is something else. And he was not last when he was falling out. As I pointed out, Mike Harmon was back there. It took a few laps before that ended up changing hands. Turned out Harmon had a radio issue that was dropping him further back as well. And again, very similar to my experience talking with Morgan when he was feeling much better a couple years ago in 2017. I asked him why he bothered to stay out there and lead a couple laps under caution when the current point systems didn't really reward that anymore. And he told me in no uncertain terms, look, I'm like 75 years old. I'm out here and I just led laps at Darlington, and he just left it at that. And I left it there. And I was like, yep, that says it all, man. That says it all. That dude is a competitor. He may not be able to run as many laps as everybody would want him to. He may not have all the sponsorship that you may need. But that man has heart, and I hope that there was no disrespect offered by the video there or anything. I just it could have just easily been anybody else. And in 2017, it turned out to be Matt Tifft, and it wasn't any of the starting park guys I was talking about. I almost thought maybe we were going to get a situation like that, and ultimately it did happen that way. And it wasn't in the video because after the race was over with, Denny Hamlin gets disqualified. So that was an interesting story. Because, of course, the last row was Hamlin and Nemechek at the back, or Hamlin and Shepard at the back. I'm getting ahead of myself. So you had Denny Hamlin back there with Morgan Shepard. Hamlin sent to the backup car. I'm taking a conservative lap there in the number 18 car. But marching his way to the front very quick. I think if you check out the Shepard video, you can see some moves that Hamlin is making down the back straightaway. He was absolutely slicing through those guys, much like Kyle Busch was doing in the beginning of the Cup race on Sunday. A lot of 3 wide passes, especially to the inside, made it really entertaining to watch out there. But yeah, it's certainly those kind of deals there. But yeah, it was interesting to see for Hamlin. It looked like he had a really good battle there with Cole Custer at the end. I thought Custer had his number. Lap traffic ended up being a bit of a factor there, as it commonly is at Darlington, no matter what aero package you're running. According to Joe Nemechek, who I talked to earlier in that week, after running both the Xfinity and the Cup race, he says nowadays the Xfinity cars kind of run the way the Cup cars used to before the new reduction in horsepower. Nowadays with the Cup cars, and both, I think JJ Yaley and Joe Nemechek were talking about the fact that you can just plan it out there, the Cup car, with reduced horsepower, mash it between turn 3 and 4, and just stay in it all the way through turn 1 and 2 and the back straightaway, and only have to lift a little in turn 3. I mean, it's almost turned into a plate race, which is bizarre because they still fan out like really crazy, kind of like a Texas restart or an Atlanta restart in turns 1 and 2. I was hoping to get some more footage from there. I was anticipating a late race restart in the Cup race, and ultimately that didn't happen. But a very interesting deal there. I still have some quotes from Nemechek and Yaley that I'm gonna try to kind of work in, if not into a separate article, then perhaps a later article there when either of them come up on the list. I know Nemechek said that he was going to run some additional races there with Premium Motorsports in the 27 later this year. So after returning to the Cup Series for the first time in about 4 years, it's good to see him back out there a bit. And maybe not the most top of teams, but this is a guy that drove for teams big and small throughout his career, from Hendrick Motorsports down MB2 Motorsports all the way down to his own operation, Nemco Motorsports. Certainly wish the best of luck to him on that. And he was very kind to speak to me during the rain delay, as well as Yaley. A lot of the big name drivers, they tend to scoot off over to the hauler, the Roble homes there, but there were a few guys I was able to find in the rain there on Sunday. But again, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself on that. But we had qualifying for the Cup race and the Xfinity race. William Byron took the pole in the Cole Trickle car, so that was pretty cool. I headed over to Victory Lane because I thought I wanted to get a good shot of the 24 car in Victory Lane for at least the pole winning ceremonies. They didn't really do anything there. I don't know where they did it. I guess they did it on pit road or something, but didn't get a shot of that. But by the time that was over with, we were getting ready for the Xfinity race, and that's when I was in the backstretch there for that first part of it. Let's see. So we had the disqualification results came in quite a bit later, of course, as they do, typically an hour and a half after the race was over with. That gave enough time to go back to the Xfinity Series garage and scope out some good pictures of the cars after the race. Chad Fincham's car had a heavy damage to the right side of it. He had just knocked the wall down with a 61, and I believe pulled off the track there late in the race. Matt Mills in the 5 car for BJ McLeod's team, he was off the pace pretty early on, along with Harmon and Shepard there. Ultimately kept going, but pulled off the track in the closing stages. I think he was in the bottom 5 as well. And Brandon Brown got a lot more damage than it looked like, at least from the left-hand side. Excuse me. Even the rear clip had some pretty heavy damage on the number 86 car, and falling out at the back of the field there. So that was a different deal there for that. But yeah, pretty good Xfinity race. I didn't see as much of the actual action in there. I came back to the media center very late into stage 3 and kind of watched that in turns 1 and 2. But it seemed like a good battle there up front, at least. Kind of watched the last, I believe, the last 12 lap restart. So that was pretty cool. Would have liked to talk with guys like Camden Murphy and stuff. I know Murphy has provided some great material to the website before. Didn't get a chance to meet up with him. I did see Jeff Green, though, as I tweeted. He was leaving the garage area after Yaley pulled out in the 38 car. He pulled off the track, and he said he was doing a lot better after the surgery. He says he's a little slow, but he's healing. So that was good to see. Yeah, definitely thoughts with a lot of people, and he's definitely on that list as well. So the Xfinity race wraps up. Suddenly word comes in that the number 18 car was disqualified for too low in the left front and too high in the right rear. And just like that, luckily I hadn't actually written much of the article because I was out of the media center for a while there, and came back and finished that up. And that was an interesting deal there. And we got that all posted there with the video, and finished that up. So yeah, Saturday was cool. We kind of took it easy there from there. We went to a restaurant over in Florence that night, and got ready for the Southern 500, where it was, again, much like Friday, extremely hot at noon. We got there about noon, 1 o'clock. We made it kind of a later start. You need to kind of sleep in a bit because Saturday turned into kind of a long haul with the Xfinity article. And we started there late. Again, a lot of the veteran drivers were kind of hard to kind of meet up with them. I know they did driver introductions a lot earlier. I was in the media center at the time that was going on because there was that first storm that came through. Prior to that, I was working around, meeting up with the guys over by Derek Cope's hauler, with Landon Castle and the Sterling Marlin throwback, getting some pictures of the cars. Cars were all uncovered in the garage area, and was talking under the eaves there. And somebody was saying, like, I was like, look, if when the rain, somebody said, like, I think somebody said, when the rain comes, you can just hang out under here under the eaves until things clear up. And I was like, wait, there's rain? And sure enough, there was. And a large gully washer came over the track there, the first of 2 for the night. And this is about, I think, 2 hours before the scheduled start. And it just kept going and going and going. And I was just kind of hanging out and in and around the Cope hauler, talking with some of the crew members and everything. Really cool people out there. Actually, the teams, one of the team members on there, I believe his name is Andrew. He was formerly NASCAR's executive chef, and he's now the chef over at Starcom Racing. And I was joining the team there. I was invited over to try eat lunch there with them, and it was really cool. Very good food there. So compliments to the chef over there. Definitely well earned. It was interesting that the Starcom hauler actually had the same they're sharing the same space for the food there with the Rick Ware team, which had 3 cars in the field between BJ McLeod, JJ Yaley, and Garrett Smithley. And it was interesting because they provided basically like the hot sauce. I think there was a hot sauce company that was sponsoring the 3 cars they had in the field, and they had some of that out there, and so the team was using that on their food. So it's cool to see the product tie-ins still very much a part of the operations, even down to what they're eating at the track and how they're preparing it and everything. So yeah, they were cooking tacos. They had salad. Okay, we're doing food talk again. We're gonna bring this full circle again. I'm sure some of you guys already grabbed something to eat from there. Tacos, like they had fish, chicken, beef, and all that. They had salad. They had some snacks there too, like Nerds ropes and which I was interesting. Slim Jims, Rice Krispie treats. Really cool. I mean, it was very nice. So big thanks to the folks over at Starcom Racing for inviting me over there and giving me some shade there when the rain was coming through. Unfortunately, Last Bro got caught up in the storms there. Luckily, I gave him a heads up before the second storm came through, so he didn't get booshed as much. But we got him. We brought over some extra shirts and stuff like that, so we got him all set up. He was under the stands there, and they said they were just leaking really bad underneath the grandstands. And I also saw when I was walking around, there was actually even leaks through the track and into the tunnel entering turn one. There seemed to be some leaks there in general. I mean, it's obviously the track's been repaved, but there's gonna be issues with moisture everywhere. This is actually the first rain delay coverage I've ever actually had to do, so it was kind of an adjustment. I'm so used to everybody walking around and just catching people there. I didn't really know where to look because I usually when I see rain delay, well, usually I don't watch rain delay coverage, to be perfectly honest. I'm not that big into it as much as others. But yeah, Gully Washer is the one that comes to mind. Just boosh, just right down. I mean, it was like the rain that you don't see in Northern California unless something has happened, I guess. But yeah, definitely a big storm coming through there. You can see people scattering one way or the other. The garage area, the cars were still uncovered in the garage area, but luckily they were not sitting out. So I guess everybody's car was okay. After the rain stopped, they dried the track off pretty quick. The sun came back out pretty good because it was still out at that point. And they were drying the track off. In turn one, though, they had a really big weeper during driver intros. And I'm like, well, they're not going to get this started right now. And at that point, I kind of lost track of time. It was about 5:30. And I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't make the chart yet for the JD McDuffie book giveaway. So I should probably get on that. So I ran back in there and I was doing that and trying to bang that out as quick as possible. Got it done. And then right then, suddenly you hear all of just the rain coming down on the roof, just like drum beats on the roof. And it was storming hard. And it was even harder in the first one. Yeah, it was coming down very hard. I mean, and apparently there were other people that were out there that were like Ricky Rackman and stuff like that were out there interviewing the drivers on pit road. And I'm like, man, I should be out there and doing that. But then they got caught in the storm there. And I was like, and I didn't bring a jacket or anything. So I brought a poncho that we bought in Warren. And it just basically was like wearing a sauna. Like you put it on and you just steam yourself in it. I mean, definitely empathize with the people that are, working the cameras or certainly the drivers when they spray themselves with a hose or something. It definitely doesn't. I'm sure the experience is something even more unpleasant than that. Yeah, at that point, I just stayed in the media center. More and more people were pouring in. I know Claire B. Lang was tweeting about that too. We just had even more people out there. And more and more people were coming in. The cameramen, the NBC cameramen were coming in. One of them was carrying his shoes. He was barefoot, holding his camera, and said, "We are flooded." And part of the parking lot was flooded. The corner of the media lot, I think, went downhill a little bit. It was a corner of it was up to kind of the sidewall, the tires of one of the cars in there. It was wet. It was very, very. It was much more rain than I am used to. But yeah, I wasn't gonna, at that point. But what was nice about that was, I was working with Seth Eggert and his photographer Jacob over there, who turned out had a tie with Radius Motorsports, Ted Musgrave's old team. You mentioned Ted Musgrave earlier. We actually ended up finding a random a postcard there that had Ted Musgrave's old 55 car from the Radius team there, and presented that to him, and he was really he really enjoyed that, so that was cool to do. The throwback thing is really it's more than enough to fill the time. I think I'm sure it's unfortunate for you guys at home because rain delay coverage certainly isn't any fun. And what was it, 4 hours of it? But most of that for the media center, when it was starting to get dark, we were all just kind of huddled in there. Like I think it was everybody. I mean, it was standing room only, because there's really not much any place else to go, and you can't really go in the garage area as much. I mean, you could, but you're gonna be kind of out in the open, and there's not really gonna be much else to do. So everybody was kind of talking. It got pretty loud in there, which is unfortunate because of course, you got people that are working a deadline and recording scripts. So we were trying to keep it down. But once it got dark, I mean, and it sounded like it was lightening up a little bit. Once the worst of it had passed, it was again, like I mentioned, kind of a pestering rain, kind of like where you would put like your lowest setting on the windshield wiper. And at that point, I went back out again. There was still like pretty much everybody was in there, but I'm like, well, look, I don't want to completely lose this time in here, to not interview people. So let's go out there and see what's going on. And actually, I'm kind of getting up to where you're mentioning Odell 329. I went out there and was checking out the garage area. I think that's when I interviewed JJ Yaley. I interviewed Nemechek right before the first storm came, and Yaley after that. And there were a couple other drivers in there, mostly just crew members at the time. And then I heard a commotion over the front straightaway. So I come back out the garage entrance, and that's where you saw Corey LaJoie and Bubba Wallace throwing the football into the stands again. And that was really cool. And I was really trying to see how close I could get, quite honestly. I was only credentialed cold a couple years ago because it was my first run at covering Darlington, and also the first time covering a race outside of California. Thankful for the opportunity, of course. But this time we were credentialed hot, and I'm like, okay, let's see how close we can get to the action here. So I went out there on pit road, and I don't know if you probably might have seen me. If I don't know if they were filming it, I'm sure they were filming Bubba and Corey out there throwing the football. There was like one of the PR guys, I think, was carrying an umbrella and was filming it, and I was out there just filming it. I mean, I was like, I don't know, I was close enough that they could have, I looked like Charlie Brown out there. I mean, I was out there with my big backpack behind me and stuff like that. So if they were tossing it to me, I probably would have just fallen right over. But it was cool to catch the action. I was just videotaping it out there, getting some good pictures. That was a really cool moment because I know that they've done that for some of these other races. But yeah, I thought about going along. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was gonna set my backpack down if I was gonna do that, but I had a feeling it was so wet out there. I was like, man, I'm gonna slip and I'm gonna mess myself up. But I'm like, man, I don't know. It'll be fun though. But yeah, the thought did occur to me. But it was cool. I was just kind of enjoying the moment. I was just enjoying watching them and doing it from the distance of just watching them having fun and everything. And Corey and Bubba are, I've had the good fortune of seeing them both in action there and everything. And they're really cool personalities. And certainly I'm glad that the lightning clock wasn't as much of an issue as it was at Daytona. We had a lightning strike, I think, in the first part of Sunday, but by the time they were doing the football thing, it was really, again, kind of a nagging, pestering rain, and then it almost pretty much stopped once more the media guys came out there and were doing the stuff on pit road there. So that was good to see. And then from that point, I had heard it was going to start at 8:45. Then that changed to the track being dry at 8:45 and the race starting at 9:30, and then 9:30 became 10. And I'm like, okay, well, we did this in 2017, and I think the race took about 5 hours to complete that year. There were a lot. I think there were a lot of cautions in that. And the closest thing I can compare it to is those July races at Daytona. There was like those years, I think 2004 through 2006. I think every year it had a serious rain delay. And we're going to talk about serious rain delays. They're going to have real problems with that when it's September next year. But rain delay is so late that, even when you're watching on the West Coast, it's going to end at like 11 o'clock. Like that's insane. But luckily my night shift training came in handy, and the fact that we took a late start on that day and came in, that definitely was handy because I had just enough in the tank for that. But I'll tell you what, they could run this race at dawn and I'll be fired up for it. I mean, that was, after all we'd done on this trip and all the places we'd gone and all the stuff we'd seen, we were gonna see it to the finish, and that's we owe it to you guys to do the very best we can on that, and doggone it, we were gonna do it. And right before right before everything got wrapped up there, we talk with other people on pit road there, talk with the other drivers. Garrett Smithley was really cool on pit road there. He said he followed the site. He appreciated what we do there on the site there, and that was really cool. Got a quote from him there, getting ready to go in the 54 car. It was cool talking with Yaley, who said that he wanted to do, if he chose his own throwback from his own career, he was going to run his number 18 Vigoro car. I believe that he had like one of his best finishes in Xfinity and when he was running with David Gilliland, Kentucky that time. There was just a lot of really cool people at the back of the field. Good to see Joe Nemechek, Joey Gase. We talked to him briefly. They missed some of the practice session when the car didn't get through the first inspection. This is the first time they'd even rolled that car out since Coca-Cola 600. So, making adjustments to get it ready for Darlington, I'm sure was a big challenge. So it's good to see them out there to at least get the field close to 40 cars. I mean, we had 39, so okay, that's something. But a different deal there. Unfortunate again. I mean, I know we already kind of did the Xfinity series quick, but it was unfortunate not to see Shane Lee there because I know Dave Marrero was pretty proud of how that Circuit City car came out. Hopefully something else comes of that. Maybe if maybe they can run it with whoever the other driver is, and the next time they enter, that would be nice to see. But I would hate to see that go to waste. But maybe we'll see what happens at Indy. I haven't seen the entry list for this week yet. I'm still kind of in catch up mode here. But yeah, one of the last people I ran into coming down pit road again. I ran into so many people. I mean, that were big fans of the website. And again, thank you so much to everybody who said hi out there. It was literally too many to name. I have pictures. I have selfies with several of them. Not with all of them. And the last person I met was Josh Pruitt there on pit road with his father. They had met Liz Allison there on the pit road. That was really cool. And it was nice talking to him there about the book and about the website and so many nice comments about the work with NASCAR Man on the videos. I mean, my goodness, from the media center to pit road and in between. I'm so happy for NASCAR Man in particular because he puts a lot of work in those videos. I'm just the one that's fortunate enough to do the narrations for him. We're doing our own thing here with the website and some of the occasional videos I'm doing. But very pleased with that. So that put me really in a good mood. And I definitely appreciate everybody who stopped by. I only wish I could have talked with more of you guys. It was definitely a challenging balance there, but we're going to be definitely doing some more races. And again, we're looking at Texas, Phoenix, unofficially, for our next rounds. We're still working out the details on that. And then once we get that penciled in, we're planning on doing the magnet deal again and going from there. Hey, how's it going, Judson? So that leads all the way. So all that before the race itself. And then once the race gets started, I lined myself up over by the entrance to the grain garage area. My original plan was to stand by Victory Lane, but then I found out that was only the access point to the infield care center. I wanted to get access to the garage. And again, testing how close I could get. I was kind of surprised. Thanks again. It's my wearing this shirt, a bit of a throwback itself. Also, it's the lightest one I have. It's nice, like these sublimated ones here are nice to wear when it's hot out. And we've had so much hot weather on this trip. I know you can see how red this looks here, but well worth it. Good deal there. But the Certain 500 itself, really, it looked really competitive. I mean, from where I was on the front straightaway for most of that race. Really pleased with how close I could get to the action there. I was just trying to be very careful to not get in the way of anybody. I was right next to Denny Hamlin's pit stall, which was the last one before the entrance to the garage area. Chris Buescher's was on the other side of that one. And I watched the start of the race from there. I kind of was a bit further back and I kind of got a little bit braver and got a bit closer and closer up there. I didn't want to get in the way of any of the photographers. When everyone came, I just kind of got out of the way. But I wanted to make sure I was positioned in such a way that when somebody went to the garage area, was there, much like I did with the Xfinity one. With the Xfinity one, the only way to get into that garage area, pretty much the only way to get in that garage area from what I know, is to get in through that rear entrance, which is why I was taking pictures of that. But for the Cup garage, looked like there's two entrances there. There's one further up that kind of turns back on itself that was being used to load the cars back up again. But the main one that was there, that's where I was standing for that. And it looked like a pretty tight last place battle at the beginning. My goodness. I mean, just so loud. I mean, and such a big crowd. It looked like there were like a ton of people that stayed there. So again, great fans in the sport. I think the football thing with Corey LaJoy and Bubba kept a lot of those guys up there. and good to see them stay for as much of the race as they could. I'm sure some people left. And I know some people, I know some media people left because I mean it was a difficult situation. But looked like a really good race. I mean, we had at the back of the field. I was looking at Joey Gase and Joe Nemechek going at it, and then Garrett Smithley came back there. He got a little bit of damage after he spun, and Smithley held it until Corey LaJoy hit the wall, and then damage there. Wrapped around some rubber wrapped around the brake line, ripped it out, lost the brakes, had to pull in. It was an unexpected clip there. When I was just happened to be recording that restart when he pulled in. And then after that, we had the incident with BJ McLeod, the 51 car there, and that knocked them out of the race. And BJ was very kind to speak to me after the race, and that quote is in the article there itself. And he will be in one of the Rick Ware cars here this weekend. I know Garrett Smithley was looking to do some more runs with the Victory Lane quick oil change. I got some more information on that sponsorship there. That I'm going to hang on to for future races there. What happened to Stenhouse? I'm not sure. I missed that. I must have been in the under end of the garage area there because what I was doing is I was there. I was in the garage, in or around the garage area for about the first 200 laps, 210 laps or so, which got us to seeing Corey LaJoy in the garage and then coming back out, and then BJ McLeod in the garage and then loading them up. And I saw the 66 hauler starting to lower its lift gate. And I thought maybe the 66 was going to park. It turned out that did not happen. And in fact, they ended up finishing the race there. So that was good to see for them. As for Stenhouse, I have no idea. I did not see him in there when McDowell wrecked. That big wreck there happened when I was back in the media center. I was just kind of starting to kind of outline the article for McLeod to get a head start on it. Because by that point, I think it was about 12:30. And I'm like, oh boy, let's get this rolling so we don't push this too much. But I came up there. Saw the 34 and the 24 and all those guys wreck in turn 4. I'm like, what the heck? I haven't seen a big pile up there since Buckshot Jones got held up in traffic and wrecked in front of Tony Stewart. That was a really bad one. Stewart and I think Jimmy Spencer got hurt really bad in that one on the back straightaway years ago in 2002. That's the last time I seen anything like what we saw in turn 4, at least that I can recall. Yeah, big pile up there. Glad everybody was okay. Excuse me. But I went back over there, scrambled over there because I wanted to see what was going on there with the 34 car. It was unfortunate end for the Jimmy Means throwback because I thought that was one of the best paint schemes there. An old Daniel Hemrick there got spun out there and triggered that whole thing. Hemrick pulled in shortly after I got up to McDowell. And after that, I didn't go back into the garage area basically until the end of the race. So from there, I don't know what happened to Stenhouse. I saw him slip down the rankings to about, what was it, 35th, 36th place, thereabouts. But I didn't get any information on that. I was listening to the interesting thing. Maybe some of you guys noticed this who were listening to the officials channel that night. I was thinking it was just me. Like maybe there's an issue with my scanner. The officials weren't there for the entire race. You couldn't hear the officials for basically all of stage 3, I think. I remember hearing them say over the radio that LaJoy went by the wall. It was 32 behind the wall. Like I heard that. I think I heard them say that McLeod was out confirmed by accident. I believe I did tweet that. So I do remember them saying that. Beyond that, I don't remember them saying anything. And I thought the battery conked out of my scanner, but no, it was still running at the end, which is kudos to the battery there to last that long. Different situation. Yeah, they probably fell asleep or left or something. I don't know what the deal was, but so I didn't hear any radio traffic about the 17, at least from the officials channel. I don't know what happened with that. Unfortunately, I didn't get any information on that, but clearly they had some kind of an issue. I think when he pulled in, I saw a pretty big hole punched in the front, the lower grill. I know that was on one of the cars. I believe it was Stenhouse. So he might have had a damage to the radiator there that dropped him back a bit. It was pretty big. It was like a fish-shaped hole in the lower grill. It looked like somebody literally just stepped up and kicked it like really hard and like didn't punch the whole thing in, but like a large hole cut in it. That must have had something to do with it, whatever it was. We were picking up debris maybe in the accident from McDowell or something else happening there. That was kind of the deal. But the race wrapped up. I got up towards turn 1 for the finish and just kind of watched the last few laps from there. Good to see Eric Jones pull off the victory. I think there has been way too much made about whether or not he belongs in that ride and all that stuff. I think a lot of stuff has been thrown around, not including the statistic. I believe somebody posted this on Reddit earlier that he has more top fives than everybody in the Cup Series this year, except for his three teammates, which is something to say. So that kid belongs. He should have won Bristol. He should have won a couple of races last year, including Indianapolis. So he's probably going to be tough there again this next week. Eric Jones, I think, is the real deal. He's very quiet. He doesn't get a lot of media attention or anything like that. And I can tell from the stuff I do on the website, he doesn't finish last a lot. So it's always good. So good for him. And another signature event there, winning the 400-mile race at Daytona on 4th of July weekend, and then coming back in this one. And also a great run for Matt DiBenedetto. Good to see him get another top 10. So good run for him there. But a lot of other smaller teams, much like at Mosport, kind of struggled more or less. So that was kind of the situation there at the end. And good race from there. But I mean, really, really enjoyed it. Did the article. I think we were done with the article at like 4:30. I wanted to put a lot more quotes in there. I had a couple other stuff from like Smithley and those guys out, but I was just running out of steam. And I was like, okay, well, I could push this to Monday. But if I do that, it's probably going to be like in the afternoon. I still haven't updated the site. There's still an article from William Saki I got to post today. I got to get that up. So apologies to him. He got his ARCA article done from the dirt track. I'm going to have that uploaded. I still got to take the throwback stuff off there. I haven't even had a chance to do that. So we're, again, very much in catch-up mode, but I appreciate you bearing with me here. But great race weekend there. We kind of spent more time recovering on Monday. We drove back to Charlotte because we flew out from there. Unfortunately, the Memory Lane and North Carolina Motorsports Hall of Fame were closed that day. But we did get to the NASCAR Hall of Fame right before they closed. So we got the 50-cent tour on that, and that was pretty cool. And that was a good place to wrap it up. So we left enough stuff for us to check out next time. So we're definitely going to be back at some point. I think if we do Richmond, Martinsville, or Charlotte in that area, we definitely got some places to scope out in that area, and we're anxious to do so. It'd be great to do. So big thanks to everybody that made that possible. That's pretty much the race weekend review thing portion of this. I'm going to watch the broadcast here and get kind of a better idea of what happened in those events and understand how it all played out. And then it'll be back into that. But very thankful I do work at night shift. There were I think there were only 3 people in the media center when I was done with my articles there. So that was a different deal there. But very enjoyable trip. Very enjoyable. We did a lot of this by the seat of our pants here, but we made it work. And you guys are a big part of that. And those of you in the Patreon there, big thanks to you out there as well. So, and we sold some books. That was good too. Big thanks to people who picked up books. I brought 10 books with me. We sold 5 of them. That was fantastic, including one of them to a crew member on Matt DiBenedetto's team. That was exciting. Really happy to spread the word about JD. The hat was a good lead in there. I'm looking to do some more stuff with that also. Big congratulations to the gentleman that won the giveaway on there. I am planning on that being the last kind of race themed giveaway for the JD book right now. The big reason for that is I want to kind of turn the focus towards the next book I'm working on. I'm a little behind on where I want to be with that, so I'm going to kind of turn more focus on that. But I'm never against anything JD related. I'm always open to more information on JD or doing any more talks about him or anything like that. And the next book that I'm working on is going to be very much in a similar theme in terms of a throwback theme in NASCAR history and other drivers, personalities, and moments that are discussed a bit more. So it's not going to be something we're definitely not leaving JD behind on this. So that's going to be the big thing. And in fact, he's actually going to be inducted into the Augusta International Motorsports Hall of Fame later this month. Unfortunately, because we did this trip here, we're not going to be able to make it out to that. But we'll definitely be there in spirit. And I can't wait to hear from Linda after that and hear about that. So very exciting for them on that. But in the meantime, we're going to be looking ahead to our next trackside coverage for Phoenix, Texas and Phoenix, late October, early November. We'll do another magnet there, and it should have the other members of the Patreon that are in there right now. We'll pre-print anybody that's in there now and then add anybody else along the way. And that'll be exciting. So let's wrap this up here with a little trivia, because I know we didn't get around to that the last couple weeks here. I actually brought the Trivial Pursuit NASCAR thing out there. And what was kind of fun is I was with Ryan Daly, who designed the paint scheme for Derek Cope's car. I did that awesome job there on the 40, the throwback. I mean, that just, like I said, that just made my brother's day. I picked up one of the shirts there for him, and he was absolutely happy with that. So big thanks to Ryan Daly and again the Starcom team. That was the reason I was out that direction, and checking all that out. But that was really cool. And but yeah, we did a little bit of trivia. We did a little bit of trivia on there. There was a hard one on there. I think there was something about like Lee Petty running an Apple truck before, or I think it was watermelon truck before running in NASCAR. I thought that was interesting. My guess was Herb Thomas because I thought it was a tie-in, like something from the book, but that was a different deal there. So anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this up here. I'm gonna do a few trivia questions and we'll go from there. If you have any other questions about Mosport or Darlington, or any questions about where we're going from here, definitely feel free to mention it in the chat here, and I'll get to that along the way. Okay, but we'll do this to wrap up here. I thank you all for tuning in, of course, for sure. Couldn't pack this bad boy, but I was hoping to see if we saw some more of these out there, but I didn't see any. A lot of those obscure souvenir haulers, those are those independent ones, those are gold mines. You can find some fascinating stuff, and that certainly was true this year over at Darlington. So here we go. Without further ado, true or false? Rear view mirrors are not permitted? Question mark. True or false? Rear view mirrors are not permitted. Hey, lefty loosey righty tighty. Hey, is that from the my goodness, is that the the truck series? Are you the same lefty loosey righty tighty that's the truck series driver from the from the number 32 team? Because I've followed your videos on there. If that's you, definitely thanks for joining in. We're doing a little trivia here to wrap up. I'm sure this is false. Let me get the answer here. Yeah, false. Yes, of course you can do rear view mirrors in the cars. Cup 32, right on, man. Thanks for joining in. I think I saw you around there at the track. I apologize for not saying hi, but I definitely saw Miss Keen over there, and I was talking with them there. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. We do these little shows here after most of the cup races there. We call it the disqualification shows. We track to see if anything happens in inspection at the races, but of course doing something a little different here after the other races there. So thanks for coming on board. And if you're interested in jumping in on any of these, always happy to have people on the teams and everything too. So we'll hop in here and get the next question. What was the first year the Chevrolet Monte Carlo was replaced by the Lumina? Here we go. Your Chevrolet fans. What was the first year the Chevrolet Monte Carlo was replaced by the Lumina? Good throwback question. First year the Chevrolet Lumina was replaced by first year the Chevrolet Monte Carlo was replaced by the Lumina. Okay, just to be clear. First year Chevrolet Monte Carlo replaced by the Lumina. We have 94, we have 89, we have 2007. Any other guesses here? First time the Chevy Monte Carlo was replaced by the Lumina. We have 95. Okay, we're going to get the answer here just a moment. The answer, 1989. There we go. We got a couple of them got it right there. There we go. Dell 329. Ryan, you got it there. There we go. All right, let's get a couple more here. Of the 19 different winners of the Die Hard 500 as of 1998, 3 of them have been named Richard. Who are they? Oh my goodness. Now there's a hard one. Okay. Of the 19 different winners of the Die Hard 500 through 1998, 3 of them have been named Richard. What are their names? 3 Richards who have won the Die Hard 500 from 1969 through 1998. Which Richards are we thinking about? Just do the last names. That'll be a quicker way to do it. Go ahead and just bang out your guesses there. Don't wait on that. I know if you wait longer, you're gonna be Googling it because I know I'm thinking about it. We got Petty's, Brooks, and Rickshaws. I think you're probably right. 3 Richards that won the Die Hard 500. Won the Die Hard 500 specifically. Now, the Die Hard 500, if I remember correctly, didn't they move that back and forth? I mean, they used to have it in the summer, and then they had it in the spring, and then there was the Winston 500. The Winston 500 was the spring, and then it was the fall. So were we talking this? I mean, it's a confusing one. Yeah, Brickhouse, Petty, and I wouldn't have a clue on the third. Okay, here we go. We're gonna go ahead and do the answer here. The answer is Richard Brickhouse, 1969. Richard Brooks, 1973. Richard Petty, 1974. There we go. So you got the years too. So there we go. So Petty, Brooks, and Brickhouse, the three. So there you go. All right, that's a good one. What tracks did Ricky Rudd win in 1986? What tracks? All dicks, I like it. What tracks did Ricky Rudd win in 1986? What tracks did Ricky Rudd win in 1986? Any picks on that? What tracks? What tracks on the Cup Series circuit did Ricky Rudd win in 1986? Don't Google it. Just jump into it. Just go ahead and make your guesses. Two tracks or treks. I assume it's two tracks. What tracks did he win on? Riverside, okay. Any other guesses? Sonoma, Martinsville, Richmond, okay. Any other guesses? 1986 for Ricky Rudd. The geek from Chesapeake, as some called him. Not me, though. He's still the rooster in my book. And Richmond, Atlanta and Richmond. Let's see. All right, here we go. Martinsville and Dover. Martinsville and Dover. There we go. Two tracks where Ricky's had a good storied history of running there. Let me pull back a little bit so you can see this a little better. There we go. Let's get that in the shot. Let's bring this over. Still got to reorganize everything in here. Things collecting dust a little bit since we were last year. Okay. Next one. Who was the sponsor for Michael Waltrip in 93? That's a loaded question. Who was the sponsor for Michael Waltrip in 1993? Throwback Thursday question here on Tuesday. Who was the sponsor for Michael Waltrip in 1993? The sponsor for Michael Waltrip. Pennzoil. Pennzoil. Okay. Any other guesses? Any other guesses? Pennzoil. We have Exide. Any other guesses? All right. Let's see. I think the field has this one here. The answer is Pennzoil. It spelled it with only one N, but I'm pretty sure it's two N's. Yeah. Like pen. Well, okay. I was spending enough time in Pennsylvania on that road trip. You think I'd know how to spell the state, but yeah, there you go. Okay. How many races did Ricky Rudd win in 1987? I guess we're going to go each year here. How many races did Ricky Rudd win in 1987? How many? Lahari Brothers. Yep. The throwback scheme that we saw for Ryan Blaney this past week. Kind of more subtle, wasn't too different from the regular scheme he's running with the Menards carpet. Very welcome. We did a good picture with some of the die casts that brought to the track there. We have guesses of 3. We have a guess of 2. How many races did Ricky Rudd win in 1987 is the question here on the board. All right, we have guesses of 3, 2, and 1. The answer is 2. 2, Ultimate 23 Dragon. You got it there. Next question. Has there ever been a caution-free race at Daytona International Speedway? I'm reading it weird because it comes off one letter at a time. Has there ever been a caution-free race at Daytona International Speedway? Ever? Has there ever been a caution-free race at Daytona International Speedway? Now, interesting way to look at this. I mean, while you're chewing this over, does it mean just the points races? Does it mean just the 500 and the 400? Does it include the duels back when they were points races before they became like stage points races? Does it include the Clash? Does it include the Busch race? I mean, what? I mean, it seems to be mostly Cup questions, but there you go. Yes or no? Let's see. And the answer is yes in 1959. So there we go. So at least one of the events during the inaugural Speed Weeks in 1959 was caution free. So how about that? On which track did Darrell Waltrip win 7 consecutive races? On which track did Darrell Waltrip, Jaws himself, win 7 consecutive races? On which track did Darrell Waltrip win 7 consecutive races? DW. 7 consecutive races. We have Bristol. We have Fairgrounds. We have Bristol. Any other guesses? Bristol again. Here we go. Answer is indeed Bristol International. It has under the old name, Bristol International Raceway. Doesn't go under Bristol Motor Speedway. Interesting. All right. It's pre-Bruton Smith on this thing. Okay. What tracks did Ricky Rudd win in Okay, 1987. I guess every other question is going to be this. What tracks did Ricky Rudd win in 1987? Now we got it's a little bit of classic concentration. You got to recall how many races he won in 1987, then which tracks. So just do guesses. Go and just guess right in the comments there. Which tracks did Ricky Rudd win in 1987? I believe he was driving for Bud Moore that year. I think that was his last year with Bud, if I remember correctly. And then he went to Kenny Bernstein 88 because 87 at Kenny Bernstein. Was that still Joe Ruttman? I think so, because I think Shepard was in it in 86. Yeah, that's a tangle there among those teams. Martinsville, Bristol, Martinsville, Watkins Glen, Richmond and something. Richmond and Watkins Glen, Martinsville. Okay, here we go. The answer, Atlanta and Dover. How about that? Stump the group there. There we go. Did anybody pick Dover? I don't think anybody did. No, Atlanta and Dover. How about that? See a little bit of diversity there. I keep forgetting that he'd ever won at Atlanta. It seems like that would be a track more like a Morgan Shepherd kind of track, I would think, especially in that time period. And he just had that place figured out. I even asked him about that. He didn't see if they have a firm answer on that. Some places you get comfortable, and that's how it works. All right, here we go. Next question. How many degrees of camber, lefty loosey, you probably get this, are allowed in the rear end? How many degrees of camber are allowed in the rear end? We got a ringer in the group here today, so we might get an answer on this. How many degrees of camber are allowed in the rear end as of 1998? Any other guesses in that? I mean, this is, again, a 98 Taurus, so it's got that whole deal. How many degrees of camber are allowed in the rear end, it says. Now, let's make sure I'm getting the wording of that correctly. 35 we have? 2? Okay, here we go. Any other guesses? Any other guesses for the amount of the degrees of camber allowed in the rear end? 15. Anybody else? Let's try to get some other ones here. Oh, does the crowd give up here? I think we're getting everybody's probably Googling it here in the moment. All right, let's go find out here. Let's get the answer. The answer is 1.8 degrees, man. See, there you go. Lefty Lucy, you're right on top of it, man. So is it 2 now? That's a good question. Toe is what they're really messing with now. Okay. So there we go. So yeah, right on top of it. So yeah, 1.8 degrees. So okay. So if we're talking, okay, so we have the cutaway car here. So I mean, we're talking about like moving the bar here on the bottom, or are we talking about literally moving this around? I don't even know about that. See, the mechanical side of it's always more of a mystery to me. I can't quite figure that out. But so 1.8 degrees on something here in the rear end, and you kind of figure that out. Yeah, it said 1.8 degrees was the most you could do in the rear end of the car in 1998. Yeah, that was an interesting one. The hubs are adjustable, spindles. Okay. That's interesting because it seems like we've had more hub failures lately. I think Harvick had a streak of those recently. But maybe he'll get a little too aggressive on that. But yeah, interesting. Wait, so there we go. This thing usually doesn't have a lot of technical questions. I think one of these had like the width or the width of the spoiler. That was another tricky one. I still remember what that was. I think it was like a few difference here. Okay, here we go. Next question. How many cautions were displayed when Bill Elliott set a 500-mile speed record in 1985 at Talladega Superspeedway? How many cautions were displayed when Bill Elliott set a 500-mile speed record at Talladega in 1985? How many cautions? 1, 9. Any other caution guesses? 0. Any other guesses here? How many cautions were displayed when Bill Elliott set a 500-mile speed record at Talladega in 1985? 3. We have a 2. Okay, we got everybody guessing. We have another 2 here. Okay. The answer is 2 for 8 laps. Okay, come on, car. It didn't ask how many laps. You just asked how many cautions. Okay, 2. So, okay. A couple people got that there. There we go. Let's get a few more here. The term $1 million bill, $1 million junkyard was coined after which race? Now here we go. Here was a little tough one. This is an old school question. I sense the age in this question here. I'm not sure if I'm up to it. Um, what race was the $1 million junkyard term coined? Maybe it is more recent race. I could be wrong. It could be a more recent thing. The $1 million junkyard. What race did that come from? I assume it's asking for year and track. I mean, it could be just track, but yeah, like it could be a particular. It could be a particular race, particular wreck, for example. Um, I'm trying to think who would have said that. Maybe it almost sounds like a Ken Squire or Chris Economackyism, kind of like that. That would be interesting. Oh, we have guesses for Daytona. We have guesses at Talladega. That divisional wreck with the 20 divisional race of the 37 car wreck is very possible. Very possible. Dega. Yeah, Daryl Waltropism. Yeah, it could be. 91 Talladega. That was a big one. Yeah. I mean, again, you think about all these big pileups from the same era. All right, here we go. Answers coming up, folks. Here we go. 1973 Winston 500. The 1973 Winston 500. Okay, if I remember correctly, that's the one that ended Wendell Scott's career. Is that correct? The big wreck down the back straightaway. The one that, gosh, was it Yarborough and Buddy Baker triggered that? Oh no, that was 79. So 73. I think that was the one that had like the really huge field. There was like 50 cars in that or 60 cars. The 73 race at Talladega. So there we go. How many races did Ricky Rudd win in 1988? Okay, we really are going 1 year at a time. We're going to get up to the present day by the time that this thing cycles through. How many races did Ricky Rudd win in 1988? A little bit an easier question to kind of clear the cylinders a little bit. How many races? Black Flags Matter. I've watched his videos. Yeah, he's got some good stuff there. I haven't met him in person. I think he was at the track. I know Slap Shoes was up there too. I didn't get a chance to meet him. I mean, again, there were so many people. It was an impossible number of people, which is great. Good problem for Darlington to have. It was a sellout, which is fantastic. Like I say, my brother was in one of those seats, so that was good. Okay, how many races you won? 2, 1, 3. Okay, guess the answer is 1. 1. Okay, so I'm sure eventually we're going to get to the question here. It's going to ask which race that was. He does good stuff. He does indeed. He does do good stuff. There's a lot of good. I mean, again, I mentioned age earlier. I feel so old compared to a lot of these YouTubers these days. I mean, I am ancient compared to that. I was watching the video that Eric Estep put up from that meeting at Bristol. They just look like they were having a heck of a time. I mean, if I were 10 years younger, I mean, I would be having a blast there too. But I think I'd be too much of a square nowadays. I am too set in my ways now. I am getting up into my upper 30s. I got to take pills for blood pressure. It's a lot of fun, all the fun stuff. And of course, my hairline is not the same as theirs. Oh. But they do good stuff. They do very good stuff. And I'm very pleased that I think the future of the sport's in good hands. There's a lot of good young people out there that are very very proud of it there. Oh yeah, no, nothing serious. Nothing serious with that. I just, it's all managing it like anything else. Yeah, here we go. Let me get the next part here. What driver flipped his car at Daytona and Talladega in 1993? Okay, here we go. What driver flipped his car at Daytona and Talladega in 1993? What driver flipped his car at Daytona and Talladega in 1993? Oh, looks like the group already got it. Rusty Wallace. You got Rusty Wallace again. I believe you guys are right, indeed. And indeed, the answer is Rusty Wallace. Okay. There we go. I'm gonna do one more hard question. And I think we'll wrap it up for today. We're getting up to the 2-hour mark here, and I think that'll be good here for this week. And we'll do that. Alrighty. What track did Lake Speed win his first race? Question mark. At what track did Lake Speed, he of the best name, win his first race? His first race. What track did Lake Speed win his first race? Darlington says one. Talladega says another. Any other picks? Darlington. Any other picks here? If you're in Indy, come visit. I'd love to, man. Unfortunately, I won't be in Indy, but Lefty Lucy, I'm gonna look to Phoenix and Texas be my next ones out there. I did see you out there. I saw you had the suspenders. I thought that was really cool. You had a good deal there going. But you always have your game face on. I gotta admit, I'm a little sheepish. I feel like you guys are a hardworking bunch, and I don't want to distract you guys or anything. But I'll definitely say hi next time I'm out at the track. Probably Texas probably be the next opportunity. But I'll definitely look out for you guys. Darlington. Yeah, Darlington International Raceway. Absolutely. 1988. Lake Speed. March 27th, 1988 specifically. She gave the date. There you go. Right on. Okay, I'm going to get one more question here, and I think we'll wrap it up here for tonight. But again, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight, for following along here these last couple of weeks. There's so much more I think to talk about here from the races. I feel like I still just skimmed the surface, but it was a fantastic trip. We're looking to do more of those and everything, but between the Patreon, everything like that. Oh yeah, you can talk. I know, absolutely, absolutely. I got you, man. But yeah, no, I'll definitely say hi there next time I'm out there, and we're definitely looking to do a lot more races, and I like what you guys do. I like that you guys. Dave Marrero does a great job with your paint schemes. I know he and another gentleman were working on the one for the Crunch car that looked beautiful. Hate that you guys didn't have a good run out there, but you guys show good hustle getting back out there, so that was good to see. Definitely under difficult circumstances. That's the difference between you know making the most out of a bad situation. That's the real heart in the team there, and that's definitely something I know that myself and my readers just definitely love to see. So that's definitely the deal. Let me get this deal right here. What track did Ricky Rudd win in 1988? Okay, I'm gonna do one more after this. Check out my channel. There we go. Yeah, definitely check out Lefty Lucy Righty Tighty's channel. He's got some good videos. I love the stuff from the hauler, because that reminds me of the old stuff on the Sirius radio thing, where the people, the hauler drivers would call in and say where they were going because they were driving from like Michigan all the way out here to Sonoma. And it was always cool to hear where they were and what places they were seeing. I love that. I love that. So it's very much a throwback to that, and I enjoy your work there for sure. Watkins Glen. That was the answer for that. Watkins Glen. Let me do this one to wrap it up. How many race cars can the average transporter? Oh, here's a good question. Carry. How many race cars can the average transporter carry? Good question to close out on. How many race cars can the average transporter carry in 1998? The average transporter. We have two. We have two. We have three. The average transporter in 1998. A little bit of a twist here. How many of these bad boys fit in the average transporter? The average one. We have two. We have two. We have three. We have two. We have several for two. And the answer, of course, is two. And there it is. So, again, there we go. Well, I think that'll do it for trivia and the show this week. So we'll park the car right over here. But just to close things out again, big thanks everybody for following up here with the last couple of weeks. I hope you enjoyed what we did here at Darlington and Mosport the last couple of weeks. Social media was kind of the bigger part of the push this time around. I've got some interesting stories along the way, and definitely looking to do a lot more of that coming up. Next show is going to be this Sunday after Indianapolis. That will be another all-night shift kind of thing, very similar to Darlington. Coming off work and doing that afterwards. So we're going to be doing a review for Indianapolis, and we'll see what goes on with the teams out there, and the potential of any late announcements from the track at Indianapolis. That's another one on our circuit. We haven't done that race yet, but looking to do that one of these days and figuring things out. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Lastcar.info is the website. At LastCarOnBrock is the Twitter. Patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock is the Patreon. In the meantime, have a fantastic week, everyone. Thank you for coming on board and catching up with me here after the trip. Thank you again to everyone who came up and said hi during the week there. That really means a lot to me. We're going to do a lot more of this coming up here. And unofficially, yes, Texas and Phoenix is going to be our next trackside coverage at the end of this year. Full details and confirmation on that coming up. And look ahead to William Saki's article on the ARCA race that's going to be posted later today. Again, available at lastcar.info. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you again on Sunday And again, for those of you out in the southeast there, braving Hurricane Dorian, we're all with you, man. And hang in there, and we'll see you when the storm passes.